Yeah, hi, this is David. Hey, I just wanted to spend a bit of time with you, really, just trying to get to know you and allow you to get to know me a little bit. And I started preparing for simple yoga classes back at the end of last year. It's only a few weeks, maybe 6 weeks. And since then, I tell you, I've learned a lot about cameras and I know what I don't know now. And getting all of this set up, it's certainly been a challenge for me, but hopefully this is going live on YouTube. And what I really wanted to do was to just share a bit about myself. And I've got a beer down on the floor there, which is absolutely lovely. And that mightn't sound very yogic, but I really do enjoy beer. And I'm probably going to go out and have another one afterwards. And I still have an occasional cigar and eat red meat. And you might think, well, that's not what you want to hear. This is not what a traditional yogic is. But whoever said that I'm a yogic anyway? I'm David. It's really as simple as that. And I think that quite often what prevents us from practicing yoga is that ideal that we can never be everything that the papers and the magazines portray us as being as far as a yoga practitioner. And by me authentically representing myself and sharing, look, I still enjoy a beer and occasional cigar, like nice big ribeye on the bone. It's awesome. We don't have to really change anything to practice yoga. That's really important to me, and I always try and start with the idea of the end in mind. And what I'd love for you as you share practice with me, and I hope you do share practice with me, is that at the end of the practice you do feel good, you do feel satisfied with simply turning up. It's not about the poses, it's not about being bendy or anything really. It's simply turning up and what happens, happens. And that's what's important. And I started practicing yoga about 25 years ago. And when I started practicing, it really was a meditation practice. I had a beautiful teacher, Mr. M and Mrs. M, and they taught us a really genuine, traditional meditation practice. We were given a mantra, and every day now I still practice with that same mantra that I was given about 25 years ago. It's been very special for me. It's got me through a lot of really tough times, and I'd encourage you, as you practice yoga, to see your meditation practice as something that is as integral to your practice as the physical poses, the asana that we practice. And so, 25 years ago, a mate of mine asked me to go to a creative visualization weekend, and I went with him, and then I said, well, how about you come to this school with me? And I went to the school for 10 years, and we studied the Gita, we studied the Upanishads and the Bible. And I really, really want to encourage you, whatever faith group that you might belong to, or whatever your belief system is, I'd encourage you to join me. Join me on the mat. I think I read somewhere that as soon as a religion becomes exclusive, it's political, and this is not what I want our simple yoga practice to be. That's really important. I am a Christian. I'm brought up in the West. I was brought up by a Christian family. One of my great teachers, as well as Mr. Mavro, was a Benedictine priest, Father Lawrence Freeman. If you Google him, you'll find a lot of hits on Father Lawrence. Father John Main. We have some great, great teachers that we can draw from. And, I shared with a mate that, I was thinking of, starting to practice or starting to teach yoga classes. And he told me a story about the not guru, I think it was, in India, and he wore sand shoes, and he wasn't very guru-y at all. And I'm not a guru, I don't know anything. The truth is within you. It really is. Whatever you aspire, whatever you want to do, it's within you. And it starts with a small step, and this practice with me will be that small step. And I think for me, yoga is a spiritual practice. And then we get back, well, what does spiritual mean? Oh, why are you sitting with me? Move. And what's spiritual mean? And I read somewhere where to be truly spiritual means to be free, to be who you really are. And then you ask, well, what does that mean? What does it mean to be free, to be who you really are? I don't know. Because we have an idea of who we might be or what we should be, and that's not really who we really are. And then I think, oh, look, I'm thinking too much. I'm just going to stop thinking. Yeah, so come to the practice with a beginner's mind. I'm offering a lot of YouTube stuff that's just going to be free. It's going to be called David's Musings and Meditations, and I will share with you when I go down to the beach and I meditate. I might be in a forest or up on a tree, or, you know, if it's too early in the morning, you might see me naked. I probably won't share that. But the thing is that David's Musings and Meditations will be free. Everyone can join me, and I'd love to see you on the practice there with me. First Beginners is going to be a bit more structured, and my plan is to just have a really short 10-minute introduction to a pose. You might have already seen I've done Tadasana, done some cat and cows, and I love Savasana. Savasana's already up. It's my favourite practice. Ask anyone I love. Give me after lunch. Most days now I go down to the park here in Darwin and I lay down on the grass. I've got a little plastic sheet that I lay out, and I stretch my feet out and I go into Savasana. And you will not believe how, energised I feel after I've just had that 20 minutes on the grass. Recommended. And sometimes if I sleep a little bit longer, I don't stress about it. That's good. So First Beginners, just short, 10 minutes, and I'll introduce a pose. It will stand in its own right. You don't have to watch them in any order. For those of us that are older, perhaps seeking a little bit more flexibility, wanting to lose a bit of weight, these practices will be great for you because you are invited and encouraged to do them in your own time. And originally you might just watch. And over time you might start practicing. You can re-watch them, they'll be recorded. And that'll be great. Good to roll your shoulders. Just relax. This is all yoga. It's being present in the moment. Second Beginners is where I will start to integrate the poses that I teach individually and uniquely, where they will be brought together. And they will form a practice where each pose builds on the pose before it. You warm up parts of your body, and then the next pose uses that, and that pose is then the base for the next pose after that. So slowly, we build up strength. Slowly we build up flexibility. And you might lose weight. But for me, what's really important, it's not the goal. It's not to become more flexible. It's not to lose weight. Really, the goal is to be in the present moment. I can't stress that enough. They call it the monkey mind, and our mind works incessantly. It's always chattering away. Through our practice of moving our body with our breath, we're able to get out of our mind and just moving really gently, moving really stillly. You mightn't believe it, but you practice yoga 4 days a week, it will change your life. I am speaking from personal experience. I teach Wednesdays, I teach Saturday mornings, and every morning I get up and I meditate. It's unusual that I'll miss a morning, but if I do, I'll make sure that I catch up in the evening. And in the evening, if I can, I'll do another 20 minutes. It will stand you in good stead. You are never too old to start. It's really important that you understand this. Believe me when I say that it will transform your life. It will. There's stuff I've read recently, and I read a lot. I've got to tell you, I read a lot, but I don't remember very much. It's really embarrassing. I've watched The Last Samurai 7 times now, and each time's like the first time. I was sharing with a lady this morning that I forgot my wife's name. And I was joking, but she thought I was serious, and that's my weird sense of humour. I hope you bear with me. But we've got to laugh. Like, we're not here for a long time. A few short breaths, really. If we're not enjoying ourselves and having fun, we're missing out on a lot. Where was I going with all of that? Yoga's transformational. You might lose weight, but that's a goal. That's right. What I was going to share was that I read recently that the yoga that we have in the West now, and yoga that's really coming since the 60s, and way before then, it's not really what yoga was about. Yoga's not about, getting your knee behind your head and doing all of these, really strong bendy poses and looking great on the front page of Yoga Journal. That's not, for me, that's not what yoga's about. And, I can't put it any simpler. For me, yoga is about being able to look in the mirror and say, yes, I like myself. I'm okay. That's a big statement. It's a big problem for me to be able to say, yes, look, I like myself and I like who I am. I share it a lot. I probably share too freely a lot of times. But, I shared with a mate of mine, about not liking myself. And he said he just hates himself. And, there was another situation where they said, I don't like myself either. If we can't like ourselves, who else is going to like us? Seriously, you've got no one else to blame. And I was so pleased to call it Simple Yoga Classes. The website was available. And for me, you'll hear me say it many times that, this is really simple. But simple doesn't mean that it's easy. It's not meant to be easy, but simple's good. To be able to sit still in a comfortable cross-legged position or on a chair, don't try and get down to the floor. A chair's great. But to be able to sit still might only be 10 minutes. And then you might build it up to 15, or you might build it up to 20. And then 30. I used to meditate with the Brahma Kumaris, and occasionally we'd sit and we'd meditate for 2 hours. That sounds a long time to sit still, but it was just 1 minute at a time, and then 2 hours is up, and you'd get up and you'd leave. I wouldn't do it sitting down, but sitting in a chair. And people have a lot of different ideas about what meditation is. They talk about controlling the mind, about emptying the mind. And for me, that's not what meditation's about. The mind has activity. The mind thinks. It's got all these neurons and axioms and all that good stuff. And the mind is meant to think. It's the same as the lungs are meant to breathe. The mind thinks. But Mr. M used to say that there's no such thing as a good or a bad thought. It's only thinking that makes it so. So I encourage you that as we sit down and we meditate together, don't worry about what the mind is doing. Simply come back to your mantra. And you might not have a mantra-based practice. You might have a breath practice, or you might have a candle that you focus on. Whatever practice you have, I would love you to join me with it. We can create a simple meditation community all around the world. How awesome would that be? Because when we meditate, I can't prove it, I read it somewhere, that all the cells in our body, they start to vibrate at a different frequency. And as we sit down and meditate together, that frequency becomes common and we can pick it up. Can't prove it, but it sounds great. So we're second beginners. Third beginners, is where I'm going to be introducing some really strong practice. I'm going to be really building up strength, shoulder strength, preparing ourselves for inversions, a lot of core work, a lot of push-ups. And it's simply with the idea of, I love inversions. I love throwing my throwing my feet up the wall and practicing my handstands. I've still not got away from the wall, but that's okay too. That's okay. You know, it was funny as I was feeling really energetic one day and I was out in the grass and I threw my feet up and I went crash straight over the other side. And my wife loved it. She thought it was a cack. And that's what this is about. It's about having fun. So join me when you can. So we've got David's musings and meditations. We've got First Beginners, which is just going to be short, 10 minutes. Introduction to each pose, and I'll go over the poses again. Second Beginners is a structured class where I start to integrate the poses together. And then Third Beginners is where we're going to build up strength and start preparing for inversions and holding poses longer and really starting to tone our body. When we practice yoga, it was explained to me that we draw muscle onto bone. When we exercise with weights, which are external to our body, it draws the muscle away from bone. So when we're practicing yoga, we draw muscle onto bone. And that sounds pretty cool, doesn't it? Yeah, I think that'll do today. Maybe this is all streamed live and maybe it's really connected with you. And I hope it does. I really sincerely hope it does. And my beer's getting flat, so I'm going to leave it there and go and have my beer. So, namaste.